Welcome to the We Hack Purple podcast, where each episode we meet someone new from the information security industry. And this is season 3, where we are focusing all about application security, which, as you know, Tanya Janca, that's me, that is my jam. Today, we have a sponsor, which is SemGrep Supply Chain. Woo! And we have my dear friend, an amazing human being, the CEO of Cloud Defense, Anshu Bansal. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tanya, for inviting me. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Because I know you quite well, but I want the audience to know you too.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm CEO and co-founder of Cloud Defense, where we secure from your code to cloud, the whole whenever you start writing the code and how that is deployed. Little background about me. I started this company very small, right? Just around 2.5 years ago. Now we are around at 50 plus people and serving worldwide customers. In Prior to this, I co-founded another company. It was B2C space, hire car, and from this room, I did the IPO for around $500 million. So that's amazing. And um, Prior to that, I used to work at Amazon, Microsoft, VMware, and many other companies in different roles in security and software development role. And I'm investor and I live in Silicon Valley. So that's a little bit brief about me.
Awesome. Awesome. I am realizing you're a bit far. Come a little closer so we can hear you
Mhm.
better. And then you don't have to speak as loud. Um, but I really like your shirt, just to be clear. Okay, so you spoke literally last night at the OWAS Bay Area chapter meetup, and there was a whole ton of people there, and I wasn't one of them, and that sucks, and I missed it. And so I was like, will you come on my podcast and just tell me all the things you talked about? And you said yes. And so you talked about AppSec problems. What were the two things that you're focusing on?
Yeah. So this week I spoke at OWAS Bay Area chapter. Lots of people showed up. Lots of intelligent people, way intelligent than I am. Over there, I focus on the challenges which, you know, as a cybersecurity team is facing, the whole industry is facing. The two problems which everyone in the industry in AppSec is facing is one problem is prioritization. There are so many vulnerabilities. How do you prioritize, right? Is CBS score is right? Is what's the context is right? Many different things. Second thing is the false positive. No matter what tool do you use, there are so many false positives, right? So these are some of the two problem areas I discussed at length in OWAS Bay Area chapter, and people really liked it.
Okay, so these are things that I have had problems too with. And so when we're talking about false positives, so I don't want to like list tools that give lots of false positives and make fun of anyone, which is tempting at times, but we don't do that on camera.
Yeah.
But how can we, like as AppSec professionals, try to help with false positives? How can we have less? Like, how do we triage them? What do we do?
Yeah. So before we go into solution, we need to understand the problem statement. Why? We always, whenever I personally trying to solve a problem, I would like to understand why, the reason why, right? So I did lots of research, read lots of reports. There was a report recently done by Datadog in which they mentioned around 7 different problems, but I will just highlight the major things they were trying to convey in that report. In my opinion, there are a couple of problems that we can think about, and I'm sure you will agree with me. So if you look at the AppSec vulnerabilities, as per the research, only 3% of the critical vulnerabilities are worth prioritizing. You can
Why?
ask me the question why? The reason why There might be, let's say, 100 applications. Out of 100 applications, not every application will be public facing, right? They might be on your private host. There might be some applications which are deployed, which are only for internal uses, right? So, and by having this runtime context, how this application is deployed on runtime, if you are able to isolate and analyze the application's behavior at the runtime, you will realize that you don't need to fix it all. Your teams, software developer, engineering team, and security team will be so much happier. So that's the number one problem, right? If you are able somehow, if you are able to put the context with the runtime, you will be able to reduce the false positive or the quantity of the vulnerabilities. That's a
We
problem number one. Mhm.
Oh, wait. I want to ask more questions about problem
Sure.
number one.
Hmm.
So when you say context, what do you mean by context? Because what
Yeah,
that means to one person may be different than another.
yeah, yeah. So this is based on your environment, your deployment, your application will be different than my application, right? So have you ever shopped at Amazon, Tanya?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
I've done
So
that.
in Amazon, like Tanya's recommendation versus my recommendation will be different.
Yeah.
Have you even thought about the reason why? Behavior, right? Amazon or any company in these machine learning algorithms, they analyze your behavior, where you are clicking it, what kind of shopping habits, where do you live. So if there is any way to personalize the code to cloud, your application's behavior, how that is deployed in the runtime, then you can reduce the vulnerabilities by 90%, right? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I can give
Okay.
a couple of examples as
Yeah.
well, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I love examples are the best, so
Okay.
everyone understands.
Yeah. So I'm gonna talk about three scenarios, and then based on that, you tell me which one you will prioritize most, right?
Okay.
Scenario number one: you have an application deployed on a public-facing host, right? You have 10 applications. One of the application is deployed on public-facing host, right?
Okay.
9 applications are not exposed to public. So hopefully you will prioritize it, with the highest vulnerability, highest priority, right? Then you can
Yes.
go with the vulnerability. Okay, agree. Now, that is your environment. Consider my environment. Same context. I have 100 applications. One application is deployed on a public facing host. So now there is a similarity between your environment and my environment. But my, sorry, yeah, my environment, my server also has critical misconfigurations, right?
Oh,
Yeah, so that will be slightly higher than your priority, right?
yeah.
Now consider SandGrab's environment or someone else's environment. They have 100 applications. One application is deployed on a public host, public facing host. So there is a
Mhm.
commonality. Now that host has misconfiguration. Okay.
Okay.
Now that resembles like my environment. Now that server is connected to production database. So that's the topmost. That's critical vulnerability, right? Critical application. So if you put all of these examples together, then you will realize that, okay, the issue that now all of these three are in my environment. So the first scenario that we talked about, that's not the critical anymore, right? So by having this context, you can prioritize your environment.
Do you have people argue with this? Because remember when I started AppSec and I'd been doing AppSec not even a year,
Mhm.
and I remember having an SQL injection reported to us, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like let's drop everything." But then I realized the data inside that website was public facing like it was unsensitive, it was for the public, and then our database had actually been recently patched and scanned, so it was quite solid. And then I'm like, oh, and the user is just it's just select only. And then we are looking at it and I was like, well, obviously we need to fix it. but do we need to drop everything, call in our developers on a Saturday night to work all weekend on it? I'm like, no. And like we looked and it had had many attacks for many months. And because like, and obviously that's terrible news, right? But I was like, do I need to make everyone get up in the middle of the night and come fix this? And I'm like, nah, I think it'll be fine. It's been like this like 3 years and it can wait until the morning. So do people push back on you about stuff like this?
So I haven't met any which can push back on this argument, right? Data speaks for itself, right? All of this data is in front of us, and if we give the right logical analysis, then this is the right way to do things, right? I will bet my $100,000 personally, if someone kind of can win from this argument and, deprioritize or prioritize this stuff based on what we discussed, right? Because
Yeah.
if something is deployed on a public facing host, which is connected to to production database and misconfiguration, no brainer, right? Nobody in the world could argue that, right?
How do we get better context though? Do we have to? So, like, I'm not saying like specifically, obviously,
Mm.
everyone needs to go run and buy their tool immediately and our sponsor's tool. But how in general, like, I'm an AppSec person, how do I get more context?
Yeah. So if you look at the whole industry, right, there is a definite silos, right? AppSec is operating into silos. Software developers are juggling between business priority versus security, right? The management of business, they want customer features or the next version, right? How do you balance, right? So right now, there is a imbalance, right? Until you balance that, right, it won't happen. The way to balance it, AppSec, AppSec team needs to understand the context, right? Ultimately, you're not going to use your application at your home, right? Your business depends on that.
Yeah.
How customers are trying to access your application somehow, right?
Mhm.
Until you understand how customers access it, is it by mobile phone, is it by website, is it some internal portal or something, until you put that context into application and close the gap between AppSec and deployment, this won't happen, right? So you need to understand, all of the team needs to understand, okay, I'm writing this piece of code where eventually this piece of code is going, right? Once you understand that, you can bridge the gap between these two. And we will show you a couple of ways, and I'm sure you would agree with that. I will talk about it, but as we go into the little bit later part of it, but I want to talk about that was the one problem that I mentioned about the Datadog studies. There are a few more, and I'm
Okay.
sure that you would agree with that.
Okay. I am going to take this brief moment to thank our sponsor, SemGrep. Their supply chains tool, reachability analysis, lets you ignore 98% of false positives in open source vulnerability dependencies and quickly find and fix the 2% of issues that are actually reachable and therefore more likely to be exploitable. You can learn more and request a demo or free trial at semgrep.dev/product/semgrep-supply-chain. However, just look up SemGrep supply chain and you'll find it. That's a lot easier than remembering that, but it'll be in the notes. The other things that I think the audience needs to know about is that We Hack Purple is having some events. May 30th, free online, mobile app security testing for developers. Yes, that's right. We have a team from OWAS coming in to show us all about mobile security testing. We also are still sponsoring Cyber Jitsu Day from Women Cyber Jitsu, and that is Saturday, June 24th, and it's virtual and in Maryland, United States. And then also the Diana Initiative, which is not virtual, it's in person in Las Vegas on August 7th. So we're sponsoring both those events and we're very proud of it. But now I want to get back to problems for AppSec people. So the other problem we talked about was, so we talked about false positives, and then we talked about the other problem was prioritizing issues.
Mm-hmm.
Does
Yeah,
that also have to do with context, or is there more than that?
that also has to do with the context, right? Now, let's say you have 100 applications. No matter which tool you use, you're gonna get vulnerabilities, right? Let's agree on that. There will be lots of vulnerabilities. Let's also agree on, given the time and resource and factor, you wouldn't be able to fix it all, right? So prioritization become one of the critical role that plays one of the critical role into your day-to-day job, right? CISOs, CIOs are always juggling through the prioritization, right? So out of 100 applications, wouldn't it be nice if I am able to tell you that, hey, Tanya, you can ignore these 99 applications, only focus on this application,
Yeah.
and the reason is why, right? It's kind of personalized recommendation, right? Like Amazon has done for online shopping habit. So that is something based on your deployment strategies, code to cloud, right? How applications are behaving, analyzing that behavior, you can figure that out. Yeah. Your developers, your engineering teams will be much, much more happier and they will thank you, right?
What about security people? So I don't know how to say this, Anshu, and maybe you have not run up against this, but I was a developer and then I switched to security. And since I've gotten into security, I find a lot of my arguments are with security. Like I'll have, I call them the old guard. There'll be people where they're like, well, we have to fix 100% of the things in prod. And like, we show silly videos on the internet. I don't think our threat model's that intense. But they're like, we must find every bug. We must fix every bug. We must track every single, like, how does that fit into prioritizing
Yeah,
issues?
yeah. So I will talk about it, right? Let's take a step back and understand, right? Pick any business, any company. Software developers, engineering teams in size are in masses, right? And thousands of engineers. However, security teams are in teams. You can count one, two, three, okay, five people looking, 10 different teams. You tell me where on the planet, right? If sun still rises from the north, right? Does it rise? Sorry, east. My bad. If sun still rises from the east, how can 10 people take care about, thousands of applications? There is no possible way, right? Software engineers are juggling with the business priorities, right? Yes, management and business wants to solve security issues, but making money, which brings the food to the company, is the priority, right? How do you balance it? Security teams, of course, they are doing, they are old guard, they are policing the system that, hey, we need to fix it all, right? But in real way, I have worked at companies like Amazon, Microsoft, you name it, right? Top most companies, world's top most companies. There is no way, no matter how many developers you hire, there's no way you can fix it all vulnerabilities, right? That is what CISOs or security teams struggle is, right? Having that because security guys, they think, oh, I need them to fix it all, right? I don't care. Software developers, engineering teams are saying, oh, I need to deliver these features, right? This has created a tug of war between engineering and security teams. We need to bridge this gap, right? We need them to work together hand on hand and, you know, fix some of the vulnerabilities which are very important to your business, right? Unless you do that, this will be, this will be the same thing, right?
A thing that we talk about in the We Hack Purple community a lot is how do we get buy-in from developers to fix things? And I feel like explaining the context of a vulnerability, like there's these three things chained together spell trouble. But is there anything else we can do to
Uh,
try?
yeah, I will give you a real life example, right?
Okay.
You're my friend, or let's say I work with you, and you give me a 10 list, 10 different items, right? Sorry, it's not
Okay.
showing, or whatever, right? Just 10
Okay.
different items. Already I am under pressure. How would I deliver these 10 different items? Right? That is what exact the problem is. Developers, they kind of, think that security teams are their enemy, right? Because security teams are trying to give like 10, 20, 100 items. There's no way to fix it all, right? In order to bridge the gap, If you gamify this, if you say, hey, Mr. Developer, or hey, Mr. Developer, if you fix these only three issues, right, that will solve all of the problems, right? And here's the reason why. So, plus, if you put a gamification,
Hmm.
let's say you give me 10 different lists, 10 different items. I wouldn't be able to do that no matter how hard I work, right? But
Yeah.
if you gamify that, hey, solve these three problems and, then we will give you some point, start some gamification. Then
Hmm.
developers will be excited, create a leaderboard that, hey, you have 100,000 developers, top 10 developers who fix these issues, right? Then
Hmm.
people will be motivated, right? Remember, people are motivated by different means, right? Someone is motivated with money, someone is motivated with respect, someone needs, more high quality work. So everybody has different motivations. So if
Yeah.
you personalize it, gamify it, people will be motivated and you can bridge the gap between the software developers and security teams. That's my opinion.
No, I love this. I actually was talking about this with someone else today. So we're going to have someone named Brendan on the podcast
Mhm.
very soon. And he's going to talk about security champions. And he was talking about the same thing as you. Like, how can we gamify this? How can we show them a way to be motivated? And sometimes it's recognition, right? And like that's what you said, like being on the leaderboard. And some of it's monetary. So like, am I going to get a raise? Some of it, like you said, is respect, like getting promoted. That is a thing that definitely makes you feel respected, right?
Yeah, yeah. If you make the person feel special, right, they will put their name on where they like, right? They will do anything that you like, right? But you cannot just dictate them, hey, here are 10 vulnerabilities, fix it all, right? No one will do that, right? No man.
I read a lot of books, and I read a book last year, and they're talking about how this this one man in the army who's a general, and he would mentor certain people, and they always exceeded way beyond like the regular average person. And they're like, how does he pick the best ones? And he told them when he retired, I didn't. It's because I believed in them and I told them they're special. I told them they're exceptional. I supported them and they became exceptional with this support. And so, like you said, like you make them feel special, they'll become that way. Like they'll be the security champion warrior person that's like, I'm killing all the bugs.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is true. While I was building the company, I did not have any money to give it, right? We were trying to bootstrap. Later on,
Yeah.
we got funding, but did not having not having did not have any money doesn't mean that no one will work for you. If you're solving the right problem, which gonna help the community or other people, or if you are able to motivate or grow them, people will work free for you. Personal experience, I'm telling this from personal experience. Not everyone, yes, money is important, but sometimes people are looking for recognition. Sometimes people are looking for, some motivation. Give you real life example, Linux. Have you guys used it? Do you know the guy who created it? Did he create for money or something? No, right? So many software developers, they spend their nights and weekends to make Linux, better.
Oh,
Git,
yeah.
that's free. The original Git is free, right? The
Yeah.
company built on that. Who built the Git, right? Only community. Were they getting any paid? Were they getting paid? No, right? All recognition, right? There are so many infinite number of examples, right? All around us, which shows that people deserve respect, right? People are motivated if you treat them with respect, if you treat them very well. Yeah.
You know, Anshu, I have to say, so Canada's had so the entire public service went
Mhm.
on strike because basically they got offered a, a raise that was like not even 25% of inflation this year. And they're
Oh,
like, no. And I was like, if we treat them like crap, they're not exactly going to exceed our expectations, right? And
yeah.
then we don't even pay them an amount so they can continue the same level. Like, come on, guys. And then everyone's like, why are they going on strike? I'm like, I would go on strike too.
Yeah, yeah. The
So,
people deserve respect. People deserve attention. If you give, a right set of respect, right set of attention, they will do anything for you. That's been my experience. And having run the successful companies in the past, and plus work for so many big companies where, nobody knows each other, but it's still people work. Yeah.
well, as a person who has had the opportunity to work with you for years now, I can say that I definitely appreciate your management style.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
Okay, so I have a few more questions, but not very many because we are running out of time. But what were some of the key takeaways from the presentation that you gave, like about what we can do to do better with these AppSec problems? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So from key OWAS Bay Area chapter community, they really liked it. They felt like it was very informative. So some of the key areas, key takeaways from this is the first thing is so we don't need to operate in silos. Like engineering team, security team, they need to come closer. And only way they can come closer is, you know, if you give them right set of problem statement, of course, right? So prioritization become very, very important if you want to have your business run if you want to run secure business. Otherwise, we have seen in the media every day someone is getting hacked. They are paying so much money and losing customers. So the prioritization is the only way which can bridge this gap, engineering team versus security team. Why engineers will be motivated? If you gamify that, right? Rather than giving a laundry list of items because if you give laundry list of items, it's going to the kitchen sink. No way on the planet they can fix it, right? It's not realistic. So give them top problems that you want to address today, right? Remaining problem you can address it later if you have reason to justify. So prioritization based on the context, based on the data. That is super, super important. So that's a key takeaway number one. Second thing, reducing the number of vulnerabilities every day, pretty much, no matter what tool you are using, you get, oh, you have big time, you have 100 vulnerabilities. Okay, when was the last time you opened that email? Maybe you don't never know, right? Don't even remember, right? So removing the false positive with the power of context, with the power of personalization, understanding, how your systems are deployed, how your applications are deployed. If you solve these two problems, you will be able to bridge the gap, right? These are the two key takeaways, in my honest opinion. Yeah, but open for ideas, open for suggestions.
no, no, I like that. And I like also the idea how, um, like you mentioned this about how if you treat everyone with respect and you bring the two teams closer together, then you can give better context. You
Right.
can help reduce more of the false positives. And I think I just want to clarify for the audience when he says false positives, he means it's just not creating business risk. So let's say you're missing a bunch of security headers and it's like, okay, I am missing them, but it's behind the firewall and it's internal facing only. And I'm just not worried someone's going to frame my website or call out to malicious scripts. Like that's not a same concern if I'm on the intranet with my 400 employees. And so is it technically, like, some people would call that a false positive and some people would say it's just that it still is there, but it doesn't present any business risk, so we don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, yeah. You need to always understand. So business is the one which is generating the cash, right? Which is generating the money. That's how everyone is working for, right? All the security, all the engineering team, they want to get paid eventually, right? Uh, so how they will get paid? If business is flourishing, right? Business is making money. So business is important. Every risk, if you analyze from business context, then you can reduce the false positive. You can bring from so many issues to just top three issues that you need to address today.
Nice, I like it. I like it. So we are coming to the end of our time together, and so I want to tell all of our listeners Um, Thank you to Semgrat for sponsoring. And all of our OSINT courses are on sale currently right now in the We Hack Purple Academy. So I was supposed to say that earlier. But more importantly, Anshu, where can people get more of you, or where can they follow you, or where can they see more of the content that you're releasing?
Yeah. Always happy to connect. The best way to reach out is LinkedIn via my company, CloudDefense.ai, where we secure your application to cloud, the whole journey with the click of button. There is our blog as well. We've been able to discover so many critical vulnerabilities for US government. US government is supposed to be so secure. If you try to, deploy a container, it may take you 2 years just to get approval. And you will realize they're so vulnerable, right? Why all of these controls and all of this drama, right? So our blog, I would highly encourage to read our blog, recent exposures, and there is a contact us as well. You can always reach out. You just fill your information, and I will personally reach out to you. And happy to help. Always happy to help. Remember, this is my second company. If I can build a company, I'm sure you can too, right? You can build multi-billion-dollar company. All it takes is the hard work, persistent, and the right team. These are the only three formulas.
I feel like there's a lot more than that you're bringing to the table, but I digress. So if you want to connect with Anshu, so go to LinkedIn and put in Anshu, Anshu, Bansal, so Bansal. It's going to be in the show notes too. And go to his website and you can read his blog and you can sign up for his newsletter. And so go to Cloud Defense. And so that's Cloud, CLOUD, and then defense. So I'm Canadian. So we're spelling it the American way. DEFENSE .ai, like artificial intelligence, which is all the rave right now. And so go to the blog, go to the contact forum, go to the newsletter, do whatever it is that you want to do, but you can get a bit more Anshu in your life, which I think we all want.
I would happy to have all of you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Anshu, very much for
Thank
sharing
you.
your presentation when I couldn't make it. I appreciate you humoring me and me being like, could you just come on and tell my listeners everything? So thank you for being a good sport. And I look forward to seeing you throughout this year.
Same here, Tanya. Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I hope it does make sense. And anybody has any questions, feedback, please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. This has been another episode of the We Had Purple podcast.